Good Friday to everybody. How's everybody doing this fine week almost before Halloween?
When is it?
Next Saturday.
Saturday.
Next Saturday. Just think.
It will be complicated. How do you call it? Trick and treats.
Yes, it's going to be complicated, but all you have to do is get like a potato gun or some other kind of launcher, maybe a slingshot, put some candy in there and just fire it at the kids, right? That's all you need to do.
That's a brilliant idea. Wait.
Just make it marshmallows though. Don't make it like hard candy.
I'm already on Amazon.
You're already on Amazon for that? Okay. I've seen, there was a family I saw that created a leaf blower and it was almost a 12-foot piece of pipe. And they would drop it in through the top and it would launch out. So it was pretty good. Oh, by the way, that's not really why we're here today, is talk about Halloween candy. My name is Darren. This over here is Victor. We are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, since all of this craziness started happening in the world, we started doing this live stream on Fridays. No edits, so everything goes. So thanks for joining us live today. If you're watching this on the replay, go listen to some of the other podcasts. Go subscribe. See if you want to hang out with us. If so, great. Welcome to the family. If not, that's okay too. Come back and visit anytime.
No, it's not okay.
It is.
No.
Look, there's so much just anger and everything else going on. It's okay. If we're not your cup of tea or can of orange something today,
I'm gonna find
what is this? I'm gonna find. Oh, well. Speaking of podcast, this week's episode was with Adam Hawkins, and we've gotten a lot of feedback about this one. A lot more. I think probably it's because Adam has been talking about it too. It always seems that way, right? You know, if we just do a podcast with just me and you, it's pretty quiet. And as soon as we have a guest on, it sort of blows up.
Does that mean that we are probably the worst people for marketing ever?
There's actually no probably about that. We are, period.
Okay.
But that's okay.
I just left it as a possibility that there might be somebody worse.
No. Well, there may be people worse, but we're probably towards the bottom when it comes to marketing, which is fine. We have day jobs. This is just stuff on the side. This is my lunch hour. This is Victor's dinner break, which is still going. What do you have today? Oh, yeah, Fanta.
No, just finished Fanta.
Oh, okay. And moving to beer. Okay. Well, anyway. So anyway.
I don't want to disappoint anybody.
Yeah, okay. You wouldn't hurt my feelings any. So anyway, with Adam this week, it was a day in the life of an SRE. Adam is is it an SRE or a SRE? I guess technically it should be a SRE.
I think it's an SRE,
I know.
Right?
That's what it feels like, right? But regardless, he's an SRE at Skillshare.
Yeah.
I almost said the other skill word. And it was a very interesting conversation. And he also has his own podcast called Small Batches. So if that's interesting to you, go check it out. Now, this week in news... Oh, wait. Before we get into the news, get your drink. Victor's already started. Here, I'll make sure we get a... There we go. Cheers to everybody. Mine is still... I have my last can of orange seltzer water. So it's all gone. I think I'm going to do lemon next. I live on the edge. But this week was a very slow news week, at least in the tech space, except for a couple of big items. This first one we're going to talk about, Atlassian is going to end the sale, and I've got to get the screen back up, of all of their on-premise server. And I think this is the key word, the server products. There we go. And going straight cloud. Now, what's sort of weird about this is they still are going to be selling their data center product, which means you can still get on-premise. But here's the key part to this, and it's the server product. So server is different than data center, right? It's just a different classification. So as of February 2nd, 2021, so in what, just over 3 months from now? Am I doing the math right? January, yeah, roughly over 3 months from now. Pacific time. They were really specific here. Pacific time. They're going to quit selling new server licenses. There's going to be updates to the server prices. They're going to implement new ones. And then 3 years from then, they're going to end support for all server products. What say you?
I mean, to begin with, we're talking about 2024. That's
It's 3
4
years.
years from
3.
yeah, 3 years from now. So, that's a long period. I mean, things are going to change in those 3 years. And guessing that services will be bigger than today is probably a safe bet. And I must go back to what you said initially about we're really talking about servers, not data centers. So what they're doing is that they're acknowledging that their big business is SaaS and data centers for huge customers. So it's probably simply not worth the effort for them anymore to manage single server on-prem. Too much work compared to their business. Give me that work and I would be happy, right? With the income.
Right. But here's all the different prices that are going to be happening for Jira Service Desk, Bitbucket Server, Bamboo Server, Crowd, Advanced Roadmaps, Team Calendars, and Questions for Confluence. All of these are going to be pricing going up.
And you see what they're doing, basically. They could have shut it down in half a year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Instead, they are using 3 years period they will probably continue increasing the prices as creating motivation for those who are resisting cloud, SaaS, what's or not, to go there, right?
Right.
There is nothing better than money as a motivator.
Yep. So let's see here what they're talking about. So as of February 2nd, 2021, they're going to stop offering new starter, academic, community, and open source server licenses. However, they'll still have cloud community, cloud open source, cloud and data center academic. So data center is going to be the key. So they're doubling down on, if you're going to be on premise, you have to have our data center edition.
You need to give us a lot of money for us to be worthwhile, not giving you a service, but giving you to run it yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's like, do I have to? Yeah. Do I have to pay the new list price the next time I renew? If you already have an existing license, you're going to have a moderate increase. Moderate. Here, let's go ahead and open this up in a new tab here. Let's just sort of see what it's like. Of course, they don't have today's world, but let's see. Let's go down to, because Bitbucket's the one I'm most interested in. So the new price is 16. I don't. Huh?
Now you surprised me.
What?
No, I'll let you continue.
No, I mean, these are just, I'm trying to figure out where the math falls in here, but because that's per, I can't remember how that is. I think it's 3,000 for up to 50 users.
Yeah, they have a range, buckets.
Range. Yeah, so basically anywhere from $60 to $120, if you do the math roughly here for that. So it's very, very interesting. And the maintenance. Okay, so that was new price for existing licenses and new upgrade price for existing licenses. So it's, if you're going to upgrade from to, okay, now I get it. Wow. Well, at least this is pretty easy to figure out. But look, if you're still running on the server version and not the data center version, get ready. It's coming, and it will be here sooner than you think. Especially with budgets. I can guarantee you February was picked as a budget year thing.
So what I predict is that two things will happen. One is that they will have increase of their customers moving to SaaS for Jira, Confluence, and probably
And
one or
Bitbucket.
two more.
Well, Bitbucket.
No,
Yeah.
I think actually that, I'm yet to find a person who likes Bitbucket. This is honest to God kind of like statement.
Yeah.
And the thing is that people were not motivated enough to move somewhere else. Kind of, hey, I already have Bitbucket. I'm paying for it. I don't like it, but it's there. And now, when they do have to move to something else, I suspect that they're going to reduce the number of users for Bitbucket and Bamboo. Kind of like those are their secondary products, and people are going to use this opportunity to evaluate going somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's okay. And one of the other things I saw down near the bottom of this blog post is they open up, here's their number of customer organizations, or nearly. So that's a pretty good head count. And then they go on a little bit further. Hey, for our shareholders, we're going to share further details on October 29th, which is not what I wanted to click on. There we go. So this will probably be news for next week if we can get a hold of that shareholder newsletter. This will be interesting to see how it plays out.
It's a long game.
It is a long game. In 3 years, I mean, so I'm going to go back to what you were just saying. You haven't found anybody that likes Bitbucket. I haven't found anybody that really likes Bitbucket, but it's also not horrible. It's better than Subversion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right? It's
there. And there is
there.
no sufficient reason to dislike it enough to start investing time going somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying if you do have to invest time, then I suspect that GitLab is going to come up very soon with announcements that there is a script that you run to move something there. Wait and see.
Wouldn't be surprising. Okay. Anything else about Atlassian? Are we good with Atlassian? This is going to be a long story to follow. So, but basically, if you have server and you're going to your renewal was after this date, now's the time to be figuring out what to do. All right, next up, saw this one yesterday. Docker Hub's backpedaling a little bit on their retention policy because that was supposed to take effect November 1st, and that was going to be, we're going to be deleting images. We're only going to allow anonymous pulls 100 times or whatever the number was. Forgive me if I misspoke there, Docker. And now they're sort of, maybe not. What do you think?
Came back to their senses. That's what I think. They had a couple of similar moves, unilaterals, this and that backfired, and it backfired again. I understand that they really need cash injection, and they thought that this will increase the purchases of Docker Hub. But in reality, what is happening is that I think it's similar what they said for Bitbucket. Really, people want to use container registry of their native cloud provider like Amazon, Azure, what's not, or JFrog or whatever else they're using for other attributes. Now they already have images there, and they have no sufficient incentive to go somewhere else. But if you make things like this, I know at least a couple of communities and companies who already started planning how to move their even public images, especially public images, to somewhere else, GCR.
Well, and this is the key part here. This announcement means that Docker will not enforce the image expiration. However, if we go down to the next section, the consumption tiers do kick in on November 1st. So it means that anonymous free users will be limited to 100 polls per 6 hours, and authenticated free users will be limited to 200 every 6 hours.
I know some tools that rely a lot on container images, and whomever relies on container images needs to count with Docker Hub. And I've seen, I think, 3 cases where those other tools are advising their users to log in to Docker Hub or provide credentials to Docker Hub so that the images that they're pulling, public images, do not deal with this limit.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it's, I think, if I understood what you were just saying, it's this right here is you have to have a Docker paid account in order to pull without restriction.
No, go up the previous sentence.
Right.
Anonymous.
Right. Oh, yeah. Anonymous will be limited to 100. Correct.
Yes. So if you're signed in, when you use Docker Hub from whichever tool, then you're not bound to that limit, right? And I'm not talking for your images because rarely anybody keeps it in Docker Hub, but I'm talking about, when you run a pipeline, you're going to use Alpine image, and even though you don't have to be signed in, and nobody is, you should be now. Otherwise, it might just not work.
Right, but even there, if you're authenticated free, you're only going to be allowed 200 per 6 hours.
Hey, you see 200, I see 100% more.
True. But if you want unrestricted, and this is sort of weird here, you can go without restriction as long as the quantities are not excessive or abusive. So how do you define excessive or abusive?
I mean, the real story is that if those rules started from the start, if they had those rules at the very beginning, I think that they're reasonable, right? Kind of, hey, you're using it more than a hobby, you need to pay something. To me, that is reasonable. Now, the problem is that once you give something for free, taking that away is very dangerous game, right? You should try to provide the new additional value that will squeeze money from people instead of taking away what you already gave for free. And that is what's wrong, right? It's just wrong that policy didn't exist from day one, and now enforcing it now is wrong. And to be clear, it's wrong for Docker more than anybody else because we are all going to find ways to work around that, right? We will be moving images somewhere else if this turns out to be a problem, or create some kind of tunnels, or workarounds are not a problem, but Docker will lose.
Yeah. Well, and in reality, we shouldn't be going out to Docker Hub all the time anyway. We should be going through some sort of proxy if it's business, right?
Yes. I mean, medium, big, and now this is the contradictory thing actually behind that, is because big companies, they're not going to Docker Hub, especially not public images. They are, storing them in their registries, and those registries are rarely even Docker Hub anyways. So this will affect small guys, right? And you can be tiny and still reach 100 very easily. It's not a big figure. So basically they're not accomplishing anything from financial perspective that I can imagine, because they're attacking those who wouldn't pay anyway, and removing something that they're used to.
Well, I'm thinking about it from a CI perspective, and if I don't know how Docker is going to be tracking this, but let's assume it's as simple as they're just looking at an IP address. That would be the simplest way to check, right? Can you think of a different way?
I understood that, somebody pulled this image anonymously 100 times. You cannot pull it. Maybe it might be the first time you're trying to pull it today, but you cannot. Somebody already did, right?
Yeah.
Anonymous.
That's true.
The only thing that I agree with among those the new rules, let's say, the policies that I set, is the thing about removing images that are not used by anybody. I don't remember, like half a year or sometime.
Right.
That makes sense. Hey, nobody's using this for half a year. Why would we keep it?
Yes.
I understand that. The rest is going to backfire.
Probably pretty harshly as well. But let's take their numbers here, and their rough numbers, with millions of developers pulling billions of images per month. If you let's say it's just a billion, you don't have too many images out there that are super small, meaning less than 5 meg. I would assume that most of them are going to be large-ish, more than 5 meg. That egress cost to them has to be astronomical.
Yes, but we can say the same thing for GitHub, right?
Yeah, but okay, fair enough.
Probably bigger traffic. Now,
Bigger traffic.
The real problem is that GitHub started with that promise of a public repos, community, open source, what's not, right?
Yep.
And they built successful business on top of that, so they can keep maintaining that free stuff that actually allowed them to build business in the first place, right?
Yep.
Now, Docker started with Docker Hub. Now I'm going to leave it to that same path. They made huge impact. They created a huge number. They gained a lot of users and all that stuff. But then they failed to build business on top of that. Right? But that's a failure of business, not
a technology failure.
A lot of people using my service. Every single company, almost every company in the world wants that type of traffic. Kind of like, I'm not going to name names, but I can easily come up with as many companies as you want who would be very grateful to have the traffic.
So what is the... So if you're doing everything on Docker Hub today, you don't want to pay anything. What is your next step? Run your own registry? Think about internal consumption. That's one use case. The other use case is you are a software publisher and you need to allow people to consume your image without problem and without you having to pay anything.
So if I exclude, internal my images for my company who are living wherever, those public images, hopefully somebody is going to come up and do the same thing. Right? Kind of, I don't know, whether that's Microsoft or Google or whatever, and say, hey, why don't we keep Alpine and Ubuntu and Debian and Nginx and all that stuff there? Maybe even say that from now on, that's the default.
Yeah. So anything that is how do they classify it? Not stable. What's the word I'm looking for? The vendor supported or whatever. There's some phrasing for it. Let me pull it up. I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, they have, officially maintained.
Official images. It's the official images, right? So if the official images live somewhere else, then is that okay?
It will have to. I mean, I can imagine GitHub. When GitHub is coming with a container registry, we had it as a news week or two ago, right? Maybe, who knows? Combined images with source code?
No, wait. You're applying logic to the situation, and you can't do that in the technology space.
I'm applying opportunity to the situation. Yeah. Because, somebody's trouble is somebody else's opportunity.
That is correct. And the word I was looking for was official. It's one of those days, man. One of those days. Okay. So Docker, yay on the, how do we say this? Yay on the what was the phrasing? The retention policy, thumbs up. Image pull, tears. Been nice knowing you.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Okay, what date is this? November 1st. So you've got 8 days to go download the internet from Docker Hub and cache it locally.
The world will not end.
No. Anyway, Docker Hub. All right, let's get on to something a little more happier. This is SnyK was this week, and Snyk had an announcement about a developer-first SAST. If you don't know what a SAST is, it's static analysis something something. I can't remember the last two, but static analysis. You may be familiar with static analysis from Checkmarx, Veracode, Fortify. There's many of them.
SonarQube, the biggest one.
Sonar, well, yeah, that's true.
Do they exist still? Is that a thing still? I haven't.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still a thing. But here's the deal. This is a shift left. Much like everything else that Snyk is doing, is they're shifting everything left. So it's being powered through their acquisition from Deep Code. That's the whole part of this. So basically, we'll get down here to the picture to where, okay, yeah, you could still do it sort of after the fact, but now it's just going to be in the editor. So you're working in Visual Studio Code and you're typing something, and then all of a sudden it gives you, as you're typing, I believe the word you used before we started the show was autocomplete for security.
Awesome or annoying? I'm yet undecided.
I think it's both. I think it's
Yeah.
just like anything else. It's going to be both.
You know, it's like those awesome things that enforce good practices, like put a comment about the public method that people get annoyed to. It's still awesome, right? But
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm exaggerating. This is great. Just nitpicking.
yeah. But this should be pretty interesting. So if you take what Snyk is, going back to Docker, Snyk is now in Docker Desktop. So you can scan images that way. So that's still post. But now if you're writing code, then as you're typing, again, I'm making these assumptions, but they are saying real time. This is going to be interesting, because if I know I've got it right as I'm typing it, or at least closer to right as I'm typing it, in theory, the post scans are going to be less. You're not going to have the 70 pages of remediations you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Maybe you only have 7.
And I really don't feel like spending 5 days doing something and then 3 days correcting that something.
Yeah. So being able to tell me at least the low-hanging ones, even if it only caught 50% of them as I'm typing, that's still great.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the things that require deeper scanning will be reserved for later, of course. But
Yeah.
It's great.
We'll have to get.
What they're doing basically is they're extending tentacles everywhere. Kind of, I don't know if you notice what they're doing. I mean, and this is a positive thing, right? Kind of, hey, there is Snyk. Yeah, you want to use Snyk from Visual Studio Code? Excellent. You want to use Snyk for Docker? Yes, excellent. You want to use it from your CI/CD tool? Excellent. Kind of like wherever you can imagine that you could be using Snyk,
Snyk
can be used there.
Yeah.
Which is a very good strategy. Kind of basically, doesn't matter which tool you like, doesn't matter what you're using, Snyk is always there for you. Did they just invented a new tagline? I should sell it to them.
Yeah. Snyk is always there for you. Well, we'll go ahead and trademark that real quick, even though we can't. Um, no, and the thing I like about Snyk, of course, we are in a different space of technology just from our day job part that is very different than Snyk. And I'm glad somebody's actually treating this right, because if you look at some of the older SAST models or SAST vendors, they're still stuck in the early 2000s. Whereas Snyk is doing, Snyk Code, they've already said it's AI based or machine learning based, not AI based. Well, actually, I like it. It's powered by, let's dig into this. It's powered by machine learning and other technologies. I imagine those other technologies are not mainframe based.
What Snyk realized, and I'm in no way saying that they're the first ones, is that, especially in security, this applies to everything, but especially to security, that the real problem is that many such tools were designed for one or two persons in a company, right? So traditionally, security tools, you have a department between one guy, two guys, maybe five if you're a big company, and you give them tools. And then they annoy the hell out of everybody else because they come 3 months later because it's one person and say, this is wrong. No, this will not pass. Go back. Kind of like it's and it's really fantastic to think about tools as something that can be used by masses, right? Kind of like, why not have a tool that will provide something, not necessarily the same thing, but something for everybody. Why not have security that can be used by developers, by testers, by managers, by those two guys as well, right?
Yep. And
then everybody can do a little bit to make it more secure.
Yep.
Sounds to me, that sounds obvious, right? When we think about it now, but imagine moving now 15 years back, right? There was no such thing.
No.
I never saw even a security tool until not long ago. When I say not long ago, like 5-10 years, right? Because I would just get an Excel sheet from somebody I never met saying that this is horrible what you just did.
And then you would say, okay, I'll put that on my backlog. I'll see you in 6 months.
I would go to, when I was a young kid, then I would go to my manager and say, the long time ago, right? This project that we are working for a year now, I just got an Excel sheet that says that we will be delayed for another 3 months. What do you say we should do? And, the answer was always the same. Ignore.
So it's
not only me, right?
Yeah, it's not only you. So that's hopefully, Patrick, if you're watching this, if not, we need to send a tweet to Patrick to watch this. Come on, we need to see this live soon.
Yeah.
Patrick's sleeping because he did a 3-day conference this week, so we're not going to bug him too much. But this is probably one of the most developer-centric announcements I've seen that I'm really excited about. It's very, very interesting. Because again, I don't expect it to catch everything, but if it can catch a lot, even a good portion, even not a lot,
it's the same thing like with, let's say, deployments, right? That I expect developers now to define how their application should be deployed. I don't expect them to go necessarily into service mesh and all that stuff, but you do your part. You define your deployment, right? Maybe your ingress. I'm paraphrasing now, and somebody else will make sure about complicated stuff, right? Everything is complicated, but things that are a bit out of your domain. And I think that this is similar.
Well, I think what's going to be interesting about this is you start typing this, whether you've been doing, in this case, this is, I guess, Node.js or something. So I'm typing this Node.js app. It doesn't matter if I'm 10 years into doing Node.js or this is my first week on the job doing Node.js. We both get this same set of information. It's going to make the developers, in theory, much better. The problem with this, though, is it's also going to make them, how should I say, they're going to have to be a lot more aware of what they're writing when they don't have it in their IDE.
But, those things will become muscle memory after a while because most of those things, are rudimentally something that you just need to know how to code slightly differently, right?
Right.
Rather than, hey, there is this exploit that appeared this morning. It's not about that.
No.
Same thing when it became popular to enforce certain coding standards, like, I don't know, use 4 spaces or 2 tabs. That was very annoying. And then you get used to use one or the other, and then life goes on.
Spaces.
Yes.
Actually, life will not go on spaces versus tabs. It will be spaces. Vladislav hit the nail on the head. Swipe left for security. I tend to agree.
Vladislav, can we use it as a title of this episode?
Yeah. Give us the approval, Vladislav, because I'm always, so as we're doing these shows, I'm always thinking, trying to do stuff, but I like this one. So if you give us the approval, and even if you don't give us the approval, it's already here, so we'll use it anyway. But we would appreciate your approval. Okay. Let's talk about a tool that we found. I think I found. Called kube-fledged. I found, not you. Too many buttons. StreamYard, I will be happy once you have integration with Stream Deck. It'll make my life much easier. Kube-fledged. In my opinion, this is a solution for a problem that shouldn't exist. You're muted if you're talking. I can't see you.
No, I'm trying to figure out what it does.
What it does, all right, so what it does is it basically pre-pulls all images. You define a list of images you want pre-pulled onto your worker nodes. That's it.
Okay.
It's managing the life cycle of the image cache.
For machine learning? Is that the
No.
thing?
It's, so let's say I need, I'll use the Jenkins example just for a minute. So I've got Jenkins running in a Kubernetes cluster, and I know that I need a Maven image, I need a Gradle image, I need a Go image, I need all these images, and I want all these images deployed everywhere all the time. I don't want to take any kind of hit pulling a new image. Think of this like a Maven cache, right? You don't want to wipe out your .m2 directory every time you do a build, because you'll be downloading the internet every time. So basically, this is, now that's too extreme for Docker, but it's just, if it needs rapid start, or this is the one that's interesting. I will buy this one. The other ones I'm debating on, but this one is, if I'm running functions as a service and I have to pull an image and it's not there, that's going to kill my cold start time, cold boot time. So that makes sense, but you're solving a problem that should probably be solved a different way. I don't know.
Look, that's a problem for the providers of serverless functions.
Yeah.
I don't know, I cannot even imagine how I could use this with Lambda. I have no control over the servers, right? Now, the thing is that if I go back to your example, like what did you say? Something like pipelines, you need Maven image, right?
Yeah.
Now, assuming that you don't change the tag of the image that you use, right? It's Maven.
Yeah.
Same one over and over. How big of a problem it is, because it is cached except the first time you pull it, to use it. So it does not disappear from the cluster, at least not immediately, right? Unless, I mean, you have some policy to remove images, but generally speaking, it's there. So if I have 10 nodes, hey, first 10 times it will be
painful-ish.
Slow. I mean,
slowish.
Kind of like a second or two, or 5. Okay, 5. 10. Let's go crazy. 10 seconds, right?
Yep.
It's not a big deal. Nice. Yes.
Now here's one that's interesting.
Somebody basically created a script around. Can I code in front right now while I colon image do Docker image pull? Done. I just did it. The whole project.
Yeah, sort of. Now, here's an interesting use case. Verifying before, so the whole point is the operator or the administrator needs to do a rollout of an application and wants to verify beforehand if the new images can be pulled. Now, this is one we hadn't talked about. If you've got an easy tool to know that you can pull images, just as a validator, if nothing else, hey, can I pull an image from this registry? Before you actually need to use it, at least then it's not a dumpster fire when you're trying to actually do the deployment.
Of your application, right?
Of the application, yeah.
Yeah, but
or
you would gain that knowledge when you try to deploy also, right?
Right. But if, let's say they're doing things incorrectly, and it's actually an operator that's taking care of the deploy at 2 a.m. in the morning, and for some reason your registry authentication credentials changed and that was never reflected as a secret in the cluster, at least here I could have a pre-flight to know that, okay, when this does happen, I know I can get there.
Fair enough.
Right? That's, I mean, to me, this is probably, other than, okay, these three are interesting, but this one is, from an operator perspective, which is normally where I default to, is I can see this use case. The other three are, okay, it's not that big of a deal.
All I can say is learn how to write tests.
How to write what?
Tests.
Oh, tests.
If it's important whether authentication exists in a cluster, I suggest you write a test that will validate that.
Could you do, all right, so, yes, okay, fair enough, but could you write an init container to see if you could pull the image? So when you write your chart, could you write an init container to try to do the pull? Would that work?
I'm not following, sorry.
All right, so we're like this fourth point here. It's trying to figure out beforehand. Let's say I don't have this installed at all, and I can't figure out beforehand if I can pull. So I just do my Helm upgrade, but in part of my deployment on one of the container I'm getting ready to do, I put in a init container in there that tries to go and pull the image. You're still not following.
No, okay. Not really.
I'm basically saying when I do the Helm upgrade, it first checks to see if it can pull. Otherwise, it doesn't even try to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that, authentication is not really on per image basis.
Right.
You would have authentication not for that. It's not about that any specific image, but can I pull images from my registry inside of that cluster? And maybe right now you can, and next moment you cannot. Things happen, right? So maybe not even for your specific application, but can I use that for a dummy image?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. But anyway, this looked interesting. I'm still trying to figure out if it's... I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just still trying to figure out... I mean, he's got his 4 use cases listed here, but we're solving a problem that shouldn't be happening. but obviously it does.
Ultimately, it's okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I don't think that this is a real widespread problem.
Yeah.
Now, somebody's probably faced that problem. Sentry, Reach, whomever is that on a repo, right? Faced the problem and created a project to help him deal with it.
Yep.
In a right or not in a right way, but hey, you created a project, why not? That's the nicest I can be.
Okay. You were being very polite. And just for Vladislav, thank you very much for the approval. And thank you for saving my time today. I already have the title. This is a good thing. It makes my life so. You don't understand. By the way, if you're ever watching this, like watching the replay, and you have ideas for titles and you're on here live with us, drop them in the chat. We'll take them. I can't guarantee I'll use it, but
hey,
every little bit, it might trigger an idea. That's all I'm looking for sometimes, is just trying to find the idea. For news, yeah.
That's a painful part, right?
Trying to find. This week it was. Holy cow. This week was.
It would be much easier if both of us would help equally. I'm trashing myself now.
I'm not going to do that to you. But by the way, just right down here in the crawl, if you're not part of the Slack community and you see news that you think we should be covering, go drop that. Go join up in the Slack community. Drop something in the podcast channel or send us a DM.
It could be news about what your company is doing as well. Yeah. I don't guarantee that I will not rush it, but it could be.
It's possible. Anything is possible. So what's your plans for the weekend? We're getting close. Wow, I was concerned that we weren't going to make it, but we're almost done. What's going on? Actually, before you get there, so hold on that for just a second. I'll give you time to think for a second. Victor did, I don't actually have it loaded up here. Victor did have his K9S or K9's video go out on Tuesday. If you haven't watched it yet, you need to go watch it. You would need to, I'll have a link for it down in the show notes. How did you like K9's other than your 15, 20-minute video? It's great, right? I think the way that you said it was, if you're used to VI, you're going to like this.
Yeah. So it has kind of like a steep learning curve. It's not you need a week, right? But it's not you open it and suddenly you know what to do. It takes a bit of time to get used to it. And the part I like the most, this is going to sound very trivial and silly to you. But for a while, I used --watch to watch resources, like how my pods are changing. But that in Kubernetes is so horrible that it's useless, completely useless. So I stopped doing that, and whenever I need to watch something, I execute kind of watch, and then kubectl get pods. Right? Yep. I would be you, and the part I like most about K9S is actually that it is constantly refreshing the information.
Right. It's a live watch. That's
my favorite part, really.
And it's more terminal based versus the others. So Terminal, I know. If it doesn't have a terminal interface, Victor probably won't use it.
I sound like that, but that's not what I mean. I think that UIs are great for observability, for watching something, not for operating.
So what's your plan for the next video? Have you gotten there yet?
Yes, and it's already recorded.
Oh, it's recorded, just not edited yet.
Yeah, it's scheduled to be... No, I edited everything. It's
done. It's already scheduled.
It's already scheduled. Yeah, it's coming Tuesday.
Okay. Don't say what it is.
No, I will not.
No.
And kind of, I stretched myself to do it. Normally, I would do it over weekend, but I really want to do the next section for the catalog. So I stretched myself over nights, and then weekend is catalog.
And what are you working on in catalog for now? What's next up?
Progressive delivery. Now, this is a subject that whole book. I wrote the whole book, but I think that I see it now from an alternative angle.
We'll talk about that next week or whenever you release it.
Probably week after next.
Week after next.
There are 2 sections to be recorded. They're written.
I played with Waypoint some yesterday, and they've had 3 releases since the announcement last week. They are moving really fast. If you're wanting to play with Waypoint, play with it, but just know that things are going sideways really fast. Not in a bad way, but it's moving fast. They're fixing a lot of things.
I went through documentation, but I still haven't had time to put my hands on it. How does it feel?
It's okay. The server, so it's a client server based model. So, but the server is basically the brain. It actually doesn't do any work. It's more like air traffic control. And the CLI, the client part of it, is where the real work happens. Sort of. There's, like right now, you can't back up the database that's inside of Waypoint. It's actually a database. It looks like it. I'm not sure if it's SQLite or not, but it's data.db is the name of the file. So I'm thinking it's probably SQLite just from a quick look. You can't back it up yet. You can't do a restore. The thing I'm trying to figure out, I've got to model this out. I think I'm going to do this maybe either this weekend or early next week, is set it up to where I've got the server on a different device. I've got the client on a different device, and then I'm going to drive it just using Jenkins and see how it works out.
Do I hear indirect commitment of putting it into the catalog?
Indirect, yes, because I've got to make it work first. And plus with it moving so fast, meaning 3 releases since last week, that's anytime you've got more than a weekly release, it's hard to do something with it, unless you're actually working on it as a developer of it. So I'm not backing off on it much, but I'm sort of pausing and watching the cadence on it hopefully drop a little bit. It looks interesting. I did hit a couple of rough patches that, because I'm using Quarkus as my sample app, the way that they automatically use, so by default it uses Heroku build packs to do the building. So if you have the build stage, I think they call it a stage, if not the build directive, whatever it is, it uses Heroku build packs by default, which is cool, except in the case of Quarkus, which you don't have a Docker file in the root of the Quarkus, just because of how the Quarkus semantics are. So I probably will end up dropping Quarkus and going back to Spring Boot, which that way I can put the Docker file in root and just sort of follow normal things. But I'll probably just...
Can you use it with the existing project, or it needs to start from scratch and be created with build packs and what's not?
No, because then what you can do is, because it is focused on building Docker images. Everything gets back to a Docker image. So you're not going to be doing any... If you're not doing Docker, you're not going to be using Waypoint at this point anyway.
But if you have Docker file, build packs...
Well, no, it's actually, you can specify... You don't have to use a build pack. That's just the default. I can swap out pack, which is the enclosure, the closure for it, I guess, and just use Docker. So if I've got a VM or whatever that has Docker on it, or if I've got Kubernetes, I can use Jib Jib's not directly for that. I can use I haven't tested yet, but I think I could probably use either Builda or Canico as the replacement for that. I just have to change up what that directive is. The thing I was playing with from a Jenkins perspective is all the examples that I've seen so far it's just been a simple pipeline, which is great, but I want to be able to do a preview environment or I want to have a new, not preview environment, that's the technical, the industry term, if you will, but I want to have a new environment up and running based on the branch, which means I'm going to go multi-branch from a Jenkins perspective, and I want to see how those work with different workspace. So there's a workspace associated with each of the Waypoint things. So I'm basically associating a workspace to a branch and trying to figure out. Basically what I've done is I said, screw doing the simple stuff, and I went straight to the most advanced thing I could do. because that's
Good.
so if I can figure that out, I can hopefully do the simple thing. But I probably should do the simple thing first. That way I can at least publish something. But as I was telling Victor, I'm doing all this in Vagrant boxes just to be cheap, and I keep running out of disk space. So I got to
You
clean up
can
my
use
disk.
Docker desktop, right?
I could, but I'm still running out of disk space. When you get down to only 20 meg free on your disk, the OS doesn't act very nicely. The other thing I might do, I've got like some old if I had, it was funny, I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 that I use for a lot of this streaming stuff, just for, not for this show, but for other things. And I actually use that for a couple of things because it's got 8 gig of RAM and quad core, but all of my other Pis are single core and 1 gig of RAM. But I may try running Waypoint on that just to see what it is. So I've got a cluster of 4 of those. I may try to rebuild and put Waypoint on there. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Because that way I could leave it up and running and potentially use it for some other things. I don't know. It still looks interesting. I like the opinionation that Waypoint can bring. I do like that. I like the dashboard that it gives you from understanding where things are, what's been built and where things are. That's nice. But I got to get back over my running out of disk space problem first. But that's that. Anything else? We're going to call it a day? I think we are. Do you have anything coming up? I didn't update the notes. You had both Europe Cloud this week and CDF.
Yeah, that finished, and I don't think I have anything next week. Anything public, no. The video.
Sad.
Tuesday.
Got the video. Video Tuesday will probably, more than likely, we will be back next Friday. I don't see a reason why not at this point.
You know what is special about the upcoming video? It features my artistic capabilities.
Your artistic capabilities or your daughter's artistic capabilities?
No, my non-existent
okay.
artistic capabilities.
You need to get your daughter making some of your videos for you.
She actually does make a lot of videos. She's doing some video editing. Not for me, though.
That's the reason why you have kids.
Boring.
Yeah, that's the reason, though, why you have kids, is so they can do work for you.
I'm not very... Mine is not going down the right path.
Oh, well. Okay. Anyway, let's call it a week. What do you think? Is it time to just be done, enjoy the weekend? I think so. Vladislav, to you as well. Have a great weekend. To everybody else, have a great weekend. We will talk to you next week. See you later.